Name, please.
I'm Gillian Maddigan. I've been a psychosomatic therapist for over 15 years, 14 years. Wow. I love watching people and I love to know their stories. Now the reason why I love to know their stories, it gives me more insight into learning about other people. It's like this lovely flow-on effect and wave. So what I see in one person, there may be a small reflection in someone else, and that will add to the story and create even more community. So I became really intrigued in tattoos and piercings after an experience at Melbourne Mind, Body, Spirit. It was the last reading, no, we thought it was the last reading. Sean and I thought we were actually finished for the day because everybody had legged it off the stand and left us. And it was late Saturday evening or something like that. And we just went, as we finished the last one, and these two people turned up. They were the most interesting people I've ever seen in my entire life. And I had wondered why everybody had left the stand.
No one else is going to read them.
That's exactly right. Because when I actually looked up, there was this girl, she was about 6'1". She had Doc Marten, the high Doc Martens on, laced up to here, and I looked up at her face and I went, I took a very big breath. And then I looked over at Sean and I saw her partner sit down with Sean. And I went, okay, I think I've got the better. She was pierced, eyebrows, here. All the ones around her heart were all red and flary, and she had an absolutely magnificent makeup on to look like a cat. She had black, she was dressed in black with pink things on it, I can't remember what it was. And I just went, oh my God, she had the most gorgeous features you've ever seen. And the way the makeup was done was beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to read around these piercings? And I thought, oh, okay. And I started the reading very basically, went through the process, and I said to her right at the end, I said, look honey, I've done your reading. It was actually quite easy because she had the bone structure, she had the tissue development, and the paint was the distraction, and so was all the piercings. The piercings kept people away, the paint attracted them to her. It was just this conflict that was actually occurring. And right at the end I said to her, look darling, you really need to take these piercings out and all these along here because your body's really unhappy. Especially all around your heart area, they all need to come out because they were bright red. They weren't infected, but they were highly inflamed. And she said to me, I'm really grateful that you've read my face and I've got a lot out of this. And I've just got out of hospital. This is my first day out from home. I've just had heart surgery a few weeks ago. So, and she said, now that you've actually explained all the inflammation, I'm quite happy to take them out. So, sometimes you don't know how you're going to touch someone, and it doesn't matter how they look. If you are willing to look why those things are there, it'll give you really good insight into who they are. This girl was living on the street, and this was her first new job. She was actually doing, she was a model for a punk magazine, and it was part of her, she had used her persona to gain a job, but she knew that she had to go through change. So So it's really interesting. She was only about 17, 18, I can't remember how old she was. But afterwards, Sean and I think we both just went, and then we swore at all of them for leaving us. And they go, I didn't want to read. I didn't want to read. Okay, so I wondered why people would pierce their skin and embed their skin and then tattoo it. So I was always, whenever I see my clients and they have a tattoo, I'll go, this is what this means when I see it. What does it mean to you? And I've found that the story behind it actually represents parts of their body. Parts of their inner world is getting expressed. For some people, they're so attached to that picture that it actually keeps them stuck in that state. So the picture is actually keeping them stuck because it's embedded in their skin. Now, you can actually have laser surgery to have your tattoos removed, but they've actually shown that it only takes the surface off, it's still embedded in the tissue underneath. So even if you're getting the tattoo taken off, you really have to have a good process in it to let go of the underlying stuff as well. So, this is one of my favourite women, Angelina Jolie. She has the most luscious lips and the most amazing eyes. And if you have a look at her over time and watch her change, her mouth was actually quite small in the beginning, and as she became more generous with her speaking, she speaks up for other people, you'll notice her mouth has actually got wider. She speaks up for others, not necessarily herself, but it's actually quite wide now. Now, with Angelina, these are a couple of the tattoos that she's got. There's a story behind every one of them. She has purpose when she gets tattoos. She gets them removed and replaced because something else needs to be expressed. So in that Billy Bob time, you know, the blood in the cylinder and in the vial, and there's a prayer down the side of her left shoulder. The left shoulder is what? Heart, past, emotional. It's actually a prayer. Know your rights. Isn't that what she expresses it out loud? Because she believes that she actually doesn't have any. So she's a good mouthpiece for everyone else. If you have a look at her posture, way up there in everyone else's world. Now these aren't all her tattoos. The tiger at the bottom, the prayer, and the word across the top, that's it. All the rest are temporaries. So it's actually done for a movie. So you've got to be careful which ones you look at with her. Because the person who does the tattoos for the movies actually does a really good job because they look like hers. Grab the next one. So this is her dedication to the creativity of herself. She went and made a small tiger in the beginning, and then as she developed her own self, it actually got huge. Now she's one for dedication. She wasn't going to go and have it done mechanically. She actually went and got it done the traditional way with a straw and ink. And there was a spiritual ritual behind it. So for each little dot, there's an expression. Now she's actually got that right on the base of her spine, and that's really close to the bone with her, because she's very light in her weight, so that tattooing would be right to her foundations. It would be accessing her past, accessing her family history, right to the bone, which is interesting in itself because she didn't have a very good family life when she was growing up. I have another one. This is Miami Ink lady.
Kat Von D.
That's it. She's She's an amazing artist. Her work is really quite beautiful. It's very flowing, it's very expressive, but it is her work. So her interpretation of what that person needs at the time. She's quite specific on where her stuff is. She actually doesn't have it all over yet. It's quite specific and it actually also has stories. So when you see someone with a tattoo, it's their way of expressing themselves in that moment. The challenge is that it's permanent. So your referencing point can be quite old or the past unless it's actually assisting you to move forward. Now, that you went ooh, didn't you? But I want you to look a little bit closer. I want you to look really closely at that man's face. No, he's not got his eyes shut. He actually has his eyeball tattooed.
Oh.
I don't think he can. I think that's why it was done. Because if you look at the lid of the right eye, it's quite drooped and damaged. So I think it was damaged. But if you look closely at that man, there's a young boy who's very, very sad in there. There's not a hard man. So guess what? Why wouldn't you put a skull on your masculine side if you wanted to really harden up? Really show how tough and hard you are. Right to the bone, putting that. But it belies the underlying factor that he's actually very soft and very gentle, and look where it's got him. Unfortunately. This is Jack. He even put his third eye on his forehead. Soul's actually saying something. Put your third eye right in your forehead and yet have all the other stuff around. It's like having armour in ink. I'm sorry about the subject matter in this, but I just couldn't believe it. Not only look a little deeply at the person, but look what she's put on her head. Which is quite amazing that she's got this tiny little chin, and she's made her head, the top of her head, even bigger. It's like all this creativity is trying to burst out of her head, even though it's penis. Oh, there was many jokes. There was many jokes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is definitely a woman. And it's not only is it definitely a woman, she's over 60 by the looks of it. So imagine carrying that with you on your mind into your 60s.
How many times was she called naked?
But look at her tattooing all the way around her neck. In reality, she is only exposed here. And she's exposed there, and she's so sensitive down the lower half. Imagine having a mind that's so busy. Oh, some of you do. I just don't think that's the subject matter.
Probably a hit at sex though.
Maybe. She's got very luscious lips. They're just like a little... This is the man who had laser surgery, and I actually found this is really, really interesting because it also shows you the trauma that he had to go through to actually have it. The uncovering of himself was quite traumatic.
So the top right is before he started the process.
Before and after. And then that's the progression.
It's like a reptilian taking their skin off, isn't it?
Well, it is, but look how gaunt he has become. Look how he looks like he's going through a trauma by uncovering all that, by letting it go. So that would have created protection and identity, and I think some of it is, some of it's like prison staff, and so it's like he's covering himself up so he can't be seen. And in that uncovering process, it looks quite traumatic. Letting go of all that protection and being exposed. He looks sort of happy in that top floor, but he still looks like there's a bit of trepidation in his view. Yeah. And even his lips are quite measured, his eyes are quite measured, so it's like he's measuring everything now. But look how wide his eyes are with all the paint on. And look at the tilt of his chin. Come on, bring it on. Yeah. So sometimes it's quite an interesting process watching people cover themselves, but also to uncover themselves. So his mind is going upwards. Can you see the arrow on the head? It's going up to heaven. Probably good that that one came off, because he may not have stayed on Earth. There's also protection around his heart area. Not only is there protection around his heart area here, on the other side there's protection and support underneath his heart. And you can see the tightness in his mouth, and look what's on his throat. He'd have to speak like that. He'd have to actually express himself like that, because that's the image that is presented. So if he had a soft voice, it wouldn't really work with that look. Next. Now, this is an interesting one that Margaret actually brought to my attention. I actually put this one in, the full face one, because I found all the decoration quite intense. Now, this is a tribal tattoo, but that's a woman. And women in New Zealand don't get full face tribal tattoos, only the guys. But if you look at her, she looks like she wants to be part of the masculine clan, masculine tribe. So the energy, the way the energy is flowing is very interesting around her face. So it's coming up like a fountain and flowing into her heart. And very intense gaze. Even the energy up her nose is actually driving upwards and then flowing into her base chakra, into her sacral chakra. And that would have worked until you saw the piercings. Because what does the piercings do is actually channel flow of energy. So it would have been better if all that energy flowed into her creativity, but it's actually got all these barriers to flow now. What did you feel like when you saw her?
To me, it looks like she's saying, look what you've done to me.
It's almost got that sneer because of the tattoos.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look at the nostril
She's
set.
She's even got a plug here that sticks out from her face. So she wouldn't be able to speak properly like that. It's like a sneer. Sneer almost.
Just keeps dragging on flow.
The spider one? I loved it because it was 3D. It's a beautiful technique.
It's just incredible, isn't it?
Can you imagine when she breathes? Or you can see the pulse in her neck? It would be almost like...
How many people must come up to her and go,
no, not your whole hand, just your fingers on your neck. Imagine having that feeling on your right side. It feels different on the left. Sitting there, waiting.
I almost prefer it the left. Feels more like
Change it over. Feels like.
feels more like
Now you can feel the muscles underneath your neck, can't you? They're pretty close to the surface, aren't they? Can you imagine getting a tattoo on there? You've got lymphatic glands, you've got lots of glands in there, you've got your main blood source, lots of things in there. So it's like she's tempting death by having it put on her face there. Not only that, it's like, what does a redback to the Aussies mean?
Danger.
On the toilet set,
Feels
yeah.
it's mild, isn't it?
Poisonous.
well, it's toxic for us.
It is.
But it's also sucking and draining.
Jeez.
It's doing both.
Yep.
It's poisoning the mind and it's draining.
Well, it's actually poisoning the throat,
But the
It's
throat
the
is
voice.
the artery into the mind.
the voice. Speaking, oh, there's a nice one. Speaking with venom. Pardon? What was that? Might get poisoned if you go over a hickey.
You might say that. But you wonder if she's speaking in venom out or speaking in
That's
venom internally.
No, to be out. It would be out.
It's on the right side, of course. Oh my God.
This is an American one, so she's got her boobies covered. Like she's got this tattoo that exposes her innocence. And she's got her nipples covered.
There's no boobies there, it's a couple of nipples.
She's so exposed and she's like, what?
Oh my God, what are you wearing?
Imagine living that when you're 60.
Imagine being a guy or a partner comes up to a heart specialist. It'd be intimidating, Jeremy.
Well, in actual fact, having that notion there, you'd wonder if she actually does have a heart condition. Because it's like tempting
Looks like
the
she's lying
universe.
in bed.
Just made it easy for them by putting a zip on.
The other aspect is that it's actually got an exposed exposed. Who's the anatomist here?
Aorta.
Yep.
Aorta.
So it's been cut.
So I wonder if she has that, if she is on that bed. That's her way of, she's also got the wound, that wound that's on her throat.
Yeah.
Hence
So if someone like that came into your therapy room, I wish her name was there.
sensitive chin.
What would you say that she would look like? This person came to see you. What would you say her face would look like?
Eyes is really far forward, sunken chin, very thin, sunken cheeks, big eyes.
What else?
Slight forward.
High cheekbones? Well, you'd have to have a high standard to have that. It's very detailed. So the standard would be fairly high to have that kind of tattoo. Yeah. That accessing her pain right to the breastbone.
See black hair for some reason.
Looking for light.
See black hair for some reason, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah? Do you think that she would have compassion for everyone else?
She looks very fine in the body.
Yep.
She's definitely
Not much of her.
very narrow chest, no nurture. Really might cut my heart out.
Yeah. Everybody cuts my heart out. Here, unzip me. Here's my heart. You can have it.
But nothing left.
Not worth that.
That's right. And look at that beautiful piece on the side there. Quite gorgeous. The colours are very intense. That's a side panel, right down the side of the lady's body. It's interesting. It's on her right side, and the curls actually are going inwards and up. So it's for her. It's coming back to her stuff. It's actually it's covered and it's protected. So protected by an arm.
But the growth isn't like, it isn't like the leaves on, there's some sun in that.
Yeah, it's a grace though. It's like an unfolding. You'll probably find that with this lady, she's probably had it for a particular reason. There's something in her life that's unfolded.
That's two flowers and two separate stems.
Yep, maybe two pieces. It could be two pieces. Just looking at the inconsistency in the flow in the tattoo. So she may have had one and then another one afterwards. Doesn't actually flow completely together.
That might have been to incorporate the shape on the body as it widens around the buttock.
I'm just looking at the base leaf here.
Yes.
It's a bit odd shaped through this area. It's like they put the leaf in to cover that funny shape. She's got one flower on a solar plexus, one on a heart. Solar plexus is actually going, it's really well balanced. The heart one's actually going backwards. It's facing behind.
It begs the question when you're saying that about that, how much does the artist's impression go into that artwork that's going onto the person as well?
Well, they're inspired by the person.
Because you've got that connection
So-
going backwards and forwards, so there has to be a connection, whoever's actually done it is in there as well.
Well, Lou, when you get a tattoo, you have the ultimate yes, no at the end. They don't just put it on.
No,
You have to.
Yeah, you have to choose the
you choose the design or you draw it up yourself and then they create a template
Yeah.
from which they can work.
Okay. So
So you decide.
you're in agreement with what they're putting on. Even if you're in a drunken state, you're still in agreement with what they're putting on. Never go with your friends. Never go with your friends. You can be conned into putting something on your body that you will have to live with for the rest of your life.
Unless you've got the good friends.
No. It's very easy to get influenced on such a, oh, my really cool friend, she's an artist and she suggested this, and they're going, why? It's a little woodpecker or something stupid like that.
Or
You
the
know?
Pinocchio.
Oh yes, the Pinocchio. These are leg tattoos. Now, that's an arm. The Indian's an arm. The arm one is a really interesting one because it's actually on the inside of his arm. It's not on the outside of his arm. This is about him. This is about how he feels and looking at the past. So it's facing backwards. He's probably got it facing backwards because he's getting it taken, the shot taken. But that'll be close to him. And that's on his left side. Left side, inner world. So he's got this Indian pragmatic protection on the inside of his arm. And looking where the head is, about solar plexus height. Imagine having that much power and no nonsense by your side. Now, if anybody's ever had a bruise or anything on the inside of your arm, you'll know how delicate and painful it can be. So when you get a tattoo, it's also embedding the experience into the tissue. So it's embedding the experience into the tissue and creating a memory in that. So if it's going to the bone, it's into the bone level, and if it's just going into the tissue and the muscle, it's every time you engage that muscle, that tissue, there's a memory flowing through you. Whether it's pain, whether it's what the tattoo means to you, it's coming into your world, it's colouring your world. That girl's legs look gorgeous. Dear God, imagine living with that. Imagine not being able to change it. I'd rather have a pair of stockings.
That keep going.
No,
No, that's stupid update.
being able to try.
Okay, I'll give you a little scenario. My daughter, there's another reason why I was intrigued about tattoos. When she turned 18, she got a memorial tattoo on her shoulder for her dad. She wanted to put it across the back of the neck, and I said, well, psychosomatically I didn't say anything. I did say to her, you know, if you put that across the back of your neck, you'll never be able to wear a backless dress again, because you'll have this thing across the back of your neck, and it will destroy the beautiful view that you'd have. I did tell her that by putting her dad's name at the back of her neck, it would colour all the experiences in her world from then on. Anyway, in her vocal experiences. So I was saying that I was giving this tattoo talk, and I said, oh, when you got the one here, which is a psalm, it's a number, it's a psalm, and it said, it was, God, I asked God to save me, I think, and he answered, or something like that. And I said, well, how do you refer to that now? This is 3 years down the track. She's only ever got tattoos in her lowest point in her life. The lowest point in her life. So, and I said to her, what does it mean now? And she goes, I asked to be saved and I saved myself. So if you change how you relate to your tattoo, it makes a difference. But if you live with it for the same reason you got it, you get caught up in the past. So,
It's hard when you got the Grim Reaper on your arm.
well, what does the Grim Reaper mean? What does the Grim Reaper mean to you? Exactly. It's just, if you're living with death, if you're a cancer patient and you're living with death all your life,
Best friend.
it is. You know, I'm keeping you away. You're on the outside, mate.
Yeah.
So it's really about perception, but it has to be the perception of the person that is actually got the tattoo. The other one with her, where she's got this big, I've never read it, whatever it is, down the side of her body. And when she feels low, it's interesting about this one actually, it's still raised. It's a raised tattoo, so she can feel it. And when she's feeling low, the words on it help her move forward. So she sits there and rubs it. So it's to help her anchor moving forward. So it really depends on why you have them now. Not why you got them, but how you live with them now.
And they're all words.
Hers are all words. They're all words about her in her solar plexus zone. That's a good one.
Without tissue.
Well, he's
We're certainly not spineless.
It's like he's had to show people that he's not spineless though. I'm not spineless.
Oh, yeah.
Look how narrow, Murray's pointing out that how narrow his hips are. They're tiny. They're like a 14-year-old's hips. But I like how it stops at his headline. It's like, why would you bother? Why wouldn't you take it down?
All way.
Go
Go all way.
It stops there. What? So it is for other people. It's not really about him. I put this in because that's me over there.
The tree.
The tree is me. And the amazing Marika sat and handed my back for, how long was that, Marika? 2 hours?
3. No.
2 hours?
2 hours.
Yeah, something like that, hour and a half.
Yeah, on the ground. And we got to the end of it, end of the day. The henna was off and it didn't take. No. That's what I thought. But in actual fact, I'm a VK. So if I feel something, I see it. If I see something, I feel it, and it's instantaneous. That tree I could feel for 2 months, 2.5 months. I didn't need to see it. It wasn't there for anyone else. It was for me. So the universe decided that it didn't need to have colour because it had sensation. I'm up for another one, Marika. Fruit on the tree, fruit on the tree.
Gillian?
And that was working in conjunction with Marika. I'd actually explained that I'd been seeing trees for how many months, 3 months or something like that beforehand. Everywhere I went, all was trees, dreaming about trees. And I said I'd seen this tree with this amazing bark, and that's what she produced. It has strength, it has density, it's just real foundation stuff, and it's all blossoming around my heart, which was where I was at that time. Opening that heart up, bringing my heart in alignment with who I am. Pretty awesome. Okay, so when I look at a tattoo, I actually am looking for which zone it's starting in, which zone it's moving through, what it's activating, what it is blocking. Now, this is a lovely tattoo. What are they called? Tramp stamps.
Yeah.
Tramp stamps. You know, you have the tattoo and then you have the G-banger and then you have everything else. Or your skirt or whatever else. All the stuff that you do. But it's nice kundalini energy, it's nice rising energy, but it doesn't actually have any base. It's actually coming out of the sacred, the creativity. More to do with the creativity and freeing that creativity. What's that connective energy going from right to left, bringing it into just to the tip of her heart. But then she's put dots at the end. Instead of it flowing right up, she's gone put little dots on the end. So does anybody have one other than Lou?
I've got my son who lives in Victoria and has done for 9 years, and he's got a Tassie tiger on his right shoulder.
What does he want to create? Drive and determine?
Aim to home. Tassie tiger.
Yeah, but what does the tiger do?
But the Tassie tiger is not a tiger.
But what does it do? What's the energy of it?
It's power, it's drive. Yeah.
On his right shoulder?
On his right shoulder.
It's the backup.
Yeah. He's very good.
Show me your bits.
Wings. On the wings of a bird.
Like angel.
Let's just say stuff one at a time.
Nicholas is just in the shot of it.
You just shine them in the chest. This is an interesting one. Not for you. What's this one? What's this symbol
The yin and yang.
there? No.
Underneath, soul, spirit.
So soul, spirit. But this is contained. So even though it's got wings, everything is contained. It's like containment, but I'll just add some wings. I want a little bit of freedom. I'm not quite sure if I want it all. And the spirit is underneath it. It's not above it. So it's like the spirit actually gives it wings. Right in his heart chakra. Sometimes, just having a look at his physiology, I think sometimes this weighs him down though. You can see the way the shoulder forms. So he's a bit weighed down by all this. Whereas this shoulder, you can see the energy in this shoulder is actually much more alive. It's got wings. What's this?
The symbol is the Japanese symbol for mother.
That's why.
No, got that one 5 years ago.
Yeah, I haven't seen you make
We must hang out more often.
Why is it higher than the other?
Why is it higher? I think the energy in the shoulder is drooping so much that it would have been higher, but because of what's happened in the ear, the energy hasn't re-strengthened itself yet.
So I got that one when my mother died. She got her wings.
And she loved me.
She did.
She did love me.
I must add that.
Altogether though on the right side. It is lower set facing.
Yeah, that will lower also.
Yeah.
But also the vitality in the shoulder. It's like the back, the muscles that give strength in the back here have almost given in. So it's about re-strengthening those muscles.
And
male
also, male side.
Yeah.
And my father passed away in February.
So that's the. But also here, the muscles in this side are more prominent, so they're pulling forward as well. So all they're doing in that forward drive externally forward to the world is actually making these clump, drawing that shoulder forward because it doesn't have the energy to hold up at the back. Here's another one that's decent.
It can almost be decent.
Now you get to see what we're about, everyone.
What's that?
It's the yin yang in the sun.
Aztec sun.
Sun.
So is that base or sacral?
Base.
Emotional base. So when did you get this one done?
21st birthday.
There's a bit of fire in your eyes.
The sun shines out of your backside.
When he was 21?
He did. My word, it did.
And you can see how his body has actually started to soften it up. It doesn't look as distinct. It's sort of starting to absorb the clarity that it used to have. So nowadays, it's probably less about this. Sometimes it comes out. Especially when you're dancing. So his body is actually starting to absorb it and making it less clear. So it's having less influence, it has less clarity. You say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Roots.
Yeah, historical.
Yeah.
You bet. Yeah, there's a lot of it matches for me in that time and space.
Yeah.
Does it still have meaning, Sean?
Does it still
And
have
has it
meaning?
changed?
Or what meaning does it have now?
Yeah.
What meaning does it have now for me? It has less significance than it used to have to me. The reflection of who I was then is what's dissipated. Because I'm now more me.
Not so lopsided anymore. Not just relying on that emotional jigging around. Come on, Lou, bring your bits. One.
We could be here a long
You're
time.
not going to see them blinded. No, you can see them.
We'll start down there. Start down there. And 19, is that Steve?
It is. That's my son, by the way. My son.
On her right arm.
It's actually near her throat chakra though. It's very close to the throat chakra, and not only that it's close to the throat chakra, it's on the outside.
Yeah.
So it's for showing off to everyone else.
Yeah.
It's not one of those ones that's specific for her. It's actually to show other people this is mine, and it's rooted in that foundation aspect. She steps out with him, steps back with him. Pardon?
Solar.
Solar. Solar.
That's
No, solar. Sorry, solar.
Thank you. It's part
But
of
also stepping out in her world, sorry.
It was the first grandchild as well.
Stays with her. Probably will need her. This one? Yeah. Can you see that one?
Yeah. I'm an English rose,
Heritage.
great beauty.
When did you get that one up?
That one was my last one. Probably had more by the time I was 42. So it's a 10-year.
Louise,
Yeah.
could you show off for the camera, please?
Not quite.
But in actual fact, so
Great.
when was this? When did you?
So that was only eight years ago.
8 years ago. So that's when I. What was happening 8 years ago before that? A year before that.
It would be when I came out of the corporate. So the field. So
But sometimes it's not when they get it, it's a process up to it.
yeah.
The other aspect also is that it's not very distinct anymore. So it's becoming less, there's less need to be seen that way. It's just part of who she is. And you may even find that the colour is not as intense.
Yeah.
It's like her body's starting to make her one. Okay, what do we got here? It's very faded.
Yeah. Again, same thing.
It's like it's about 25 years old.
Yeah.
Very strong.
It's a dragon on an island.
It is a dragon on a rock in the middle of the sea, and it's almost gone, there were two shells on the rock, and at that time, notice my dragon has a smile, no aggression there. Though this is my right side, my masculine side, I was overseeing my children in a court battle situation with their father.
And he tattooed that on you.
No. This is second husband. Sorry.
Also,
So
the
this
new
is
man was
second
warning off the old man.
Yeah.
And not only that, even though she's saying that it's got a smile on it, it's like, yeah, I'll hold myself quiet. But look at all the flames rising. It's like, I'll steam about this while I'm just...
Whilst the emotional turmoil is underneath.
Yeah.
So do not suffer fools lightly.
But it's becoming less
Yeah.
prominent in your world. Yeah, there's less need for that holding back of your fire
Yeah.
and smiling things off.
Yes.
When I first met you, you were very good at that.
Ooh.
Very good at
Very
smiling.
incongruent body language.
This is a really interesting one because it's actually over a heart, but not really. It's almost a representation of a heart. There's a little fairy, lotus.
Hardly see it now. Little tiny butterfly in the sunset, the vine, and then an orchid. And just through here, this was about the first one I got, which is a little wreath with my nan's name. I had emigrated about a year before my nan died, and by the time I got to England, the funeral had happened, but there wasn't yet, she was cremated, but there wasn't yet a plaque or anything, so I created that as just a wreath.
Was that
You
made
can see
over
it, my
many
nan,
times?
not a name, my nan.
Because it's not made in the one sitting, is it? It's
Yeah.
been added to.
Oh yes, this was all added below, so
Yeah.
this is all I had initially.
Yeah.
And yet this is actually, the name is actually quite strong, whereas everything else is quite faded.
And well, softer too.
Oh, the red is the lotus. So
Yeah, the red lotus is still
strong.
strong and close to her heart.
Yep.
Very close to her heart.
Orchid represents.
Pardon?
What's the orchid to you?
Oops. The orchid, I guess because of its shape, it was sustaining that memory, because it was very small when I had it done. And so it was a more supportive. It's got darker lines through as well, whereas the actual rosary, if you like, or the actual wreath has very little definition left. The name is still, but not so much the wreath, which is a commemorative
Sadness
thing,
going.
but without the attachment. 5 minutes.
There was more detail. Okay. Yep.
I've spent the last few years thinking about attaching.
Yep.
And it's not so much for one to being a wimp, but not quite concerned about permanency. But I've been thinking about a dragon or a tiger on either side or something. And I'm just...
Well, it's what it represents to you. So, what does a tiger represent to you? What is
power, it's masculine, it's...
Will it make you feel more masculine, or will it actually make you feel less masculine because it's such a strong thing?
I think probably more. It's emergence of masculinity and so on.
Well, you've got the story happening. And
But
that's what
after
it's
your
all
talk,
about.
I'm sitting there wondering, maybe I should just go and get a henna tattoo and see
Well,
how
in
it
actual
lasts.
fact, that's what I recommend to people, because what actually, if you're going to have a tattoo that's exposed, go and get a temporary one, live with it.
Yeah.
Recognise how other people interact with you because you have that energy there. Go and live with it first, because it's going to be there for a very long time.
It was also interesting what you said about your back tattoo disappearing before the end of the evening. I'm sitting there wondering, what if I put a dragon on here? Would it last an hour, or would it last
Will it already
3 weeks
be
or
done?
6 months? Or it'd be really interesting to see.
How long it lasts.
Yeah.
So, if you are going to, and the intent is there, and you're still not sure, go and have a temporary one. Because getting a tattoo, you will take your clothes off at one time. Somebody sent me one that was very risque, and it was a Pinocchio on a pelvis, full colour, this big. Now, I'm sorry, but if any man took their pants off and that was there, their self-esteem would plummet because I will be on the ground laughing. There will be no sex happening.
Maybe belong to a child.
No, it wouldn't. It's just ridiculous. It's like the boys who do the thing dance. You think it's funny and sexy? No. Pencil dick? Just all the jokes were going through my head. I'd be on the ground. It'd be ridiculous.
And he's a liar.
Yeah, and well,
I love you if you do this.
imagine the mess he's got to live with that for his whole entire life. Not only that, he has to shave his pubes so everybody can see it all the time.
And also, I was going to say, if the nose represents your solar plexus or your identity, it's saying, I will get into you. I will get into you.
But I have to lie first to make it grow.
That's right. It's all wrong.
Anyway, now that I've left that yeah, so when you're looking at a person, recognise what energy centre it is and what that energy represents and ask them their story after you deliver what your observation is. Don't ask them for the story first, deliver, then ask for the story. It's not for your validation, it's about allowing that person to recognise that you see them. I see you. No matter what you do, I still see you.